What's up, MPX Addicts, and welcome to the MPX Rehab. I'm your host, the hashtag certified Mark J. Williams, here with my co-host, as always,
the voice of the MPX Addicts, Kyle Smith.
That sounds a lot less loud when we're in such an open space. I gotta say that.
Or, when other people are talking. Whatever.
Today we are bringing you a special episode of MPX Rehab because we have a special treat in the voice of MPX, Cody Cox.
We're bringing that back.
Hey, thank you guys. Glad to be here on this special episode on a Sunday.
Yes, definitely. I don't know if you can hear it, but there was a bit of a celebration today. So to the people who were celebrating, congratulations, way to go. We're proud of you.
Yes, we had an awesome graduation party for some of our great addicts. The Pruitt clan, as we call them. Yep. They're graduating high school next week, so it was a fun day, nice time today.
Yep.
Life's all downhill after that.
Oh, yeah.
Very true. Welcome to adulthood.
Now you have to get real jobs and pay for classes instead of just go.
There you go.
But but either way, we are here today to talk to Cody Cox. You may have heard on our previous interview with him, we got a lot of that, but we also have a lot of new viewers and listeners.
Absolutely. You guys are growing by the week. It's awesome.
Yeah. That still blows my mind, but so honestly, I guess we'll go ahead and get started. I mean, the answer is obvious to anybody who knows you and knows what your name means, but
sure.
How did you get into wrestling?
Great question. So let's go back. Well, so my dad was a professional wrestler. Plenty of people heard this, but like you said, there's new listeners, new viewers. So my dad wrestled under the name of Killer Carl Cox. He started in the late 50s, wrestled for 26 years up until 1983. I was barely 2 years old, so I don't remember his wrestling career at all. But so then fast forward to 2005 or 2006, I lose track now. PCW, many people know, an old promotion around here. Every year they would have a thing where they would celebrate legends of wrestling. And so one year they wanted to honor my dad, had him out. Whole family went. And of course, a lifelong wrestling fan, but I'd never been to an indie show. And there at the show, the ring announcer at the time, a guy by the name of Travis Baxter, who some people may know, asked me kind of tongue-in-cheek if I wanted to be a wrestler like my dad. I said, no, never wanted to wrestle. However, I've always been interested in announcing. He says, well, that's interesting you say that because we're actually looking for someone for our Friday night shows. At the time, they would do shows Friday and Saturday, and their Friday shows were a little bit more for like their rookies, people that were just kind of getting started. And so I was like, well, I'm interested. So we exchanged information. I didn't hear from him for about 5 months. And then he randomly emailed me and asked if I was still interested. I said yes, and the rest is history.
What made you decide, I don't want to wrestle, but announcing, that sounds cool?
Well, I just never wanted to get physical. Because I was probably, 25 years old at the time, 26 maybe. Yeah. And so, I had never had any interest in wrestling. I'm trying to get in the ring and do stuff, right. Despite what we may see from time to time. But I went to broadcasting school, actually, and had kind of, at one point, wanted to go into radio and do something like that. So it just kind of fit, When I was a kid, I wasn't pretending to wrestle. I was pretending to introduce the wrestlers. I was emulating Howard Finkel and stuff like that. So I was excited for the opportunity, and here we are 16 years later, still doing it.
16 years later, you started at PCW. I think you had said previously you did other shows as well before MPX?
Yeah. So PCW closed down in 2010, I think. And during PCW, I didn't do any other shows really. Then it closed down, and I was like, all right, I still want to do it. I still had, the passion and everything. And so there was a few smaller shows that kind of popped up and ran, 2 or 3 here or there. And then those shows kind of ended, and then I kind of thought, all right, well, I guess that's it. I had a nice, 4 or 5 years doing it, and I'm okay if I don't do it anymore. And then 2011, so MPX had been running for a couple of years, and there's a guy that a lot of people may know, Kyle Davis, who was working for MPX at the time. And he reached out to me, was like, hey, are you interested in coming and doing something? And so I'd done some managing too, and I was like, all right, well, maybe I'd like to manage. So I came into MPX and started managing a bit. I think I managed James Johnson for about, 5-6 months. And that kind of ran its course. And they weren't doing commentary at the time, but they were looking to start doing commentary. And they were like, well, hey, would you want to do commentary with Kyle? And him and I had done commentary at PCW. So I was like, yeah, absolutely. We always had a good time. And so we started doing commentary, and then I eventually started doing the ring announcing as well. And here we are 10 years later, which is crazy. be, because this is by far the longest promotion I've ever worked for. I never thought I'd be with any promotion longer than PCW, and that was 4 years, and that seemed like a long time. But here we are now, 11 years later, I guess, actually. So still going strong.
How was stepping into because you are the play-by-play. Like, how did that kind of come about? Was like something you were always, because to me, like, I've always joked, I want to commentate or play-by-play, and then I sit there and try to do it. I'm like, play-by-play, man, that's hard.
So going back to PCW, I was just doing the ring announcing for the Friday shows, and then they did TV stuff for their Saturday shows, and they and their commentators at the time were Rob Moore, who many people know, the great Rob Moore, and then a guy by the name of Paul Lewis. Well, Rob Moore was stepping away for a little bit, and then they were asking, who wanted to jump in and try their hand at stuff. And so, no, I'm sorry, Rob Moore wasn't stepping away yet. That was later. Paul Lewis was the one stepping away. So they were looking for a color guy. Yeah. And so they had me try out, and I guess they liked me. So then I really started doing color commentary as a heel at PCW. There was this group called The Faithful, and with Mike Fox and Tim Storm and a bunch of other guys, James Johnson. And so I was kind of like a part of that stable, but I was also like a commentator, kind of like the Bobby Heenan role when Bobby Heenan was like advising Ric Flair, if you remember. And so started doing color and never really did play-by-play at PCW at all. It was all color as a heel, and I had fun. And then there was a promotion that popped up after PCW shut down called Victory Crown Championship Wrestling, ran by a guy by the name of Jason Keenan. And he asked me if I wanted to do play-by-play. And I had never done play-by-play before, but he had the faith in me, and he was like, no, I think you can do it. And so I did play-by-play for the first time with him, but again, it wasn't regular. He was running like one show every 2 months or so. And so then really MPX was the first place I did play-by-play like regularly, like full time. And even at MPX I didn't start off play-by-play. I think I started doing color where Kyle was doing play-by-play, and then somehow Kyle turned heel and then left commentary, and then I transitioned over to doing like babyface play-by-play, and then eventually Kyle came back, and then Kyle did color. So me and Kyle at both at two different points in our lives have done where he was play-by-play and I was color, and then years later I was play-by-play and he was color. So yeah, there you go.
And hey, it works out.
Y'all's chemistry was always so great. That's one of the things I remember at the old MPX, and I believe a couple other shows. I think y'all did VIP a couple times together.
Yep.
Just y'all's chemistry was so spot on, and how y'all played off each other so well. It was one of those I always thought was very underrated in the fact of how, all right, yes, there's this great action in the ring, but they're also telling a great story by what they're doing, and that's, that's the number one job for the play-by-play in the color, is also tell the story.
Absolutely.
And to me, no one's ever really done it better than y'all two. And you and Tyler have great chemistry too. Don't get me wrong.
Yep, I agree.
But there was something about you and Kyle that just chemistry was
well,
there.
and I think part of that is, me and Kyle, like, we're legit friends, still are to this day, outside of wrestling. We both are huge baseball fans, so we go to a handful of Ranger games a year together. Even still, went to a game with him about a month ago. And so I think that just that natural friendship, bled over, on air into commentary.
That can work out. I don't know how it works with us, though.
How is, because here at MPS for a while you had a 3-man booth. How I'm sure you're like most, you hate the 3-man booth.
Right.
But it seemed like you, Tyler, and Richard found a niche and found to where y'all weren't necessarily talking over each other. You all played off each other well.
Right.
How hard is that?
It is hard, but it also gets easier again when you have that natural chemistry and when you genuinely like someone and hang out with them. And so we had done 3-man booths, at the old building for MPX, and nothing against those guys. I just did not like it at all, because again, we didn't know each other that well. So I'd be stepping on someone or they'd be stepping on me, and that happened in the beginning, when Richard came on. But Richard's someone who I've known since I was first at PCW. I've known him 16 years, and so we have this friendship outside of here, to where then when we started doing commentary together, it was rough in the beginning, and I didn't like it. And even now I'll say, like, given the choice, I'll take 2 versus 3 any day. But if forced to do a 3-man booth, that was the one, me, him, and Tyler. And so we all had our roles to play, so to speak. So
yeah, wasn't most of the role them tag teaming and beating up on you?
Well, of course, that's what, and that's Richard mostly, antagonizing.
I was gonna say that was on Richard's episode. He's like, that was our mine and Tyler's only goal, is to make Cody actually break.
Right. Yeah. He did a few times, not many, but a few.
Okay, so we actually do have a question of
awesome.
do you prefer play-by-play or color commentary better?
See, both are fun, and it's really fun to be a heel when doing color commentary because you can be ridiculous. You can be over the top and make stupid excuses for whatever's happening, right? But if given the choice, I would still stay with play-by-play because it's fun to me. I enjoy it. I think if you watch my work, you can hopefully maybe tell I'm inspired by Joey Styles. Joey Styles is my favorite play-by-play guy of all time, and so I'm calling a lot of the action, and I just think that that's more fun to me. I'd rather be like, oh, drop down toe hold, oh, miss the close, blah blah blah. Like I enjoy that, especially when there's good action. You know, when there's good action, like a lot of times we see here at MPX, it makes it so much easier too. You know.
Yeah, I was gonna say it kind of becomes not necessarily a job, but just fun.
Well, not just good action, but when there's a good story to tell. Yeah. And I don't even necessarily mean a good story in the ring, but I just mean like creatively, right? And that's why I love that MPX is weekly because it's easier to tell those stories. And again, no disrespect or offense to any other promotions around here. But in my opinion, and they'd probably agree with me, it's harder to tell those stories when you're running a show a month or a show every other month.
Right.
It's super easy to tell stories, week to week because you've got most of the same fan base, and like we have the network, people are watching, so they know what's going on. So if there's like a lull in the action, then we can still kind of talk about, what's going on in the ring and what's going on storyline wise,
What's
there's something going on here.
Where's your camera?
Oh,
she got it. All right.
They're
what the heck is
Stephen Kirby and Kelsey.
Live entertainment, ladies
they
and gentlemen.
They can only take a picture if it's different. Remember?
Yeah, I guess so. It's got to be the weirdest and most different thing ever. Yeah.
That's all right though. I'm here for it.
Yep.
Apparently, Keith wanted to comment. You commentating on New Jack and Masada is his favorite.
Oh, that's awesome. I have great memories of New Jack at VIP. Thank you, Keith. Appreciate that. New Jack was great. Rest in peace, New Jack.
Yep.
There was a match, actually, where it was New Jack and Action Jackson teaming together against Masada, and I'm blanking on who the other guy was. But anyway, so they went outside. Well, we didn't have, monitors at VIP. They're outside. We can't call it. So me and Kyle was we called an audible. I ran outside with my phone.
Nice.
I called Kyle. Kyle held up his phone to the microphone, and I'm outside calling the action that Kyle can't see.
Oh my gosh.
Because we got camera guys are out there, and so that was a lot of fun.
That is brilliant, actually.
Yeah. Fun stuff, for sure.
Modern problems require modern solutions. There you go. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I could almost see something like that happening here, too.
Oh, for sure.
Point.
Yeah.
No, that was the joke today. They went outside, and Ross just sitting there because he's not working. I was like, Ross, go outside.
Let's see. What's been your favorite match to do play-by-play on?
Man, that is hard.
I know, right?
And and I have the worst memory. There's times, and it's not because I've seen so much wrestling, right? And so not just live or an MPX. I'm watching everything that I can see throughout the week, and so it's hard. Sometimes week to week I'll be like, what happened last week? I'm just trying to rack my brain. We've had some really good matches here lately. Last night Casey Clay, Tommy Dean.
Yes.
Tommy Dean and Exodus Prime had a really good match a few weeks ago. Dmitry Alexandrov and Luke Langley have had some great matches here, and that's just the last few years. I know there's tons of stuff I'm forgetting, obviously, but just great technical matches where it makes my job a lot easier,
right?
When they're doing their job in the ring,
Has the reverse ever happened to that, to where you have it's made your job harder trying to pull something out of a match?
For sure, yeah. If there's we've all seen bad matches,
right?
Yeah. If there's bad matches and there's not a story to be told to, maybe you just have two random wrestlers having a match and it's not good, you're struggling to try to find something to talk about, right? Yeah. Whether it's, all right, well, let me talk about what's happening later on the show, or let me talk about what happened earlier. Yeah. And that's not always the case, but and it's, look, I can't get in here and do what anyone does. Right. So all the respect to anyone that's a wrestler.
I don't know. You proved that you could do some of it.
I can do a super kick, and that's it. And then I'm super tired, and then I got to take a break. But yeah. So great wrestling obviously makes our job doing play-by-play easier for sure.
Oh, definitely. Then what is the wildest match you've called?
Oh man, we've had some wild ones here. Any of these matches that go out to the outside, lots of weapons. Anything where Sky De La Cremosa brings in, whether it's thumbtacks, barbed wire, bottle caps, Legos. We had something wild just recently for Fight When Survive where I'm like, I've never called anything like that. I'm trying to remember what it was now.
I mean, the Sox match.
Yes,
was different.
that was a
very
first for me, and props to Richard for. And I know it's hard, like coming up with creative stuff for especially Fight Win Survive, and. Yes, we can do some of the things that we've done before, but I know there's times where he's like, all right, let's do something we've never done before.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not a lot, because we've done a lot. So it's hard to come up with things that are first time, right? So that Sox match was definitely one. And there was a few others as well, but yeah, that's some crazy stuff. Yes. That's the one I was thinking about. Yeah. Where they, every time they chopped, it was Matlock and
Zero.
Yes, every time they chopped, they had to do a shot. That was a lot of fun.
And the ref too.
Yes.
Yeah, apparently that's like,
did you get shot?
Me and Tyler had shots down there for
I was
sure.
going to say, Shot Daddy was down there.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Ernie was pouring them. He was spreading them around. Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I liked Ernie that night. It was a heavy pour. It was great.
Does it make it easier to do the wilder matches when you're able to just sit there and go, what is going on here, than just describe the action?
I mean, I guess in a way, but again, you can have some wild, crazy matches that again aren't good.
Yeah.
And then you're like, okay, like I mean, there's times where we have to put over stuff, right? Mm-hmm. That's not good, and it's not. I don't know, as fun. Like it's again, it makes my job easy when something's super believable. But when something's not believable, but I still gotta be like, oh yeah, and it's hard. It's difficult,
Yeah. It's
Keith reminded you it was Sabu. That was the fourth one.
Okay, yeah. So fun stuff. Yeah, that was great. I forgot about that. I forgot about Sabu.
Greg asks, do you have to study to make sure you remember what everyone is that's on the card?
I don't want to say study, but it kind of comes with repetition, right? Like most of the guys that we have here have been here a long time. So when I'm doing the ring intros, I remember everyone's hometown for the most part. Now, if someone's been gone a while, there might be times where I'm like, hey, remind me where you're from again. With moves, it's a little bit different because we're at an era. Like if you go back 30 years ago, no one had specific names for their finishing moves. It was, Hogan hit a leg drop. Ultimate Warrior did a splash. Now everyone is creative with their names, and that's great. I get it. They want to make something stand out, but that does make it harder because I'm like, all right, what does he call his Death Valley driver again? What is he? And so there'll be times where like I'll ask, and then the match happens, and then I'm drawing a blank. I'm like, damn it! I forgot what he called it. And then I'll ask the next week about, hey, remind me again. Again, it comes with repetition. After a couple of times, I'm like, all right, I know. Dimitri calls that move the Oxygen Destroyer or whatever, right? So it's a little bit easier with when you're repetitive.
I know you do watch a lot because I love following your Twitter on Monday or Wednesday or whenever wrestling's on. What is kind of like, I guess, quote unquote, your style? Like, do you like the Japan style? Do you like the kind of European chain? Do you like the TV WWE stuff?
I like a mixture. I think too much of one thing is never good. Right. I got really into a lot of New Japan stuff probably about 3-4 years ago, and they have some great matches, but in my opinion, after a lot of it's kind of the same after a little bit. Yes, it's all great hard hitting stuff, but if you watch 6 matches in a row and they're all 15-20 minutes and it's all stiff lariats, dropping someone on their head with a back suplex, it gets a little old. That's why I got to switch it up. Right. Same with, like I said, whether you're watching NXT, AEW, whatever. So I like to switch it up. I don't watch a lot of WWE right now. The only WWE product I still kind of enjoy is NXT UK. I feel like that's still really good. I enjoy AEW. I enjoy Impact. I feel like not a lot of people watch Impact or talk about it.
It is underrated lately. Like everyone talks about the TNA glory days with like Joe and AJ, where they were spot on and fire and stuff like that, and then they did fall off a little bit. But the product they've put out within the past couple of years is still pretty solid.
It's very good. Yeah,
and the roster's good.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, or at least me, talking when you're like Joey Styles, I think it kind of shocks me that I guess I'm assuming you like Joey, so therefore you watched ECW. I think that kind of shocked me a little bit.
Oh, that I even watched ECW?
Yeah. It doesn't seem like necessarily your style.
Well, here's the thing. So when ECW was in its heyday, and it didn't really come on here a whole lot in Dallas, you had to kind of hunt to find it. But I really enjoyed it, and people's tastes change over time. Yeah. You watch some of that stuff now, and a lot of it I kind of cringe or it doesn't hold up. Like a lot of the great wrestling matches hold up. Yes. Jerry Lynn versus Lance Storm or whatnot. But you watch a lot of the hardcore stuff, and again, that gets just like anything else. It gets old after a while. So I was recently watching something back. I can't remember what it was, and I was like, okay, that's not great. But again, things change over time. There's stuff that I think is great now that if I watch in 20 years, I might not enjoy then. You know?
Well, and that's the thing recently, because I was rewatching some of the Attitude Era, and I'm like, this
for sure,
isn't as good
for
as
sure.
I remember when I was a kid.
And I loved it. I mean, I was in high school at that time, and never missed Raw, Nitro, and then the next day at school talking to my friends all about it. Like everyone was watching it back then. But a lot of that stuff doesn't hold up either. But I think that's bringing it back to MPX. It's not. I mean, I feel like we have something for everybody, right?
Yes.
You're going to have great wrestling matches with, like Casey Clay, Tommy Dean, or whatever. And then you're going to have some, like, Gaga and some comedy stuff. And so if you don't like the Gaga and comedy stuff, okay, well, now we got a great 5-star match afterwards.
Yep.
If maybe you're more into the comedy, all right, well, stay tuned, and we'll have another one of those here in a little bit,
And that's the one thing I've always preached about MPX. Like, even if you don't like wrestling, if you come to MPX, you're going to have a good time. You're going to enjoy it, because it is something for everyone.
Well, and we have fans here, and I've talked to them. I mean, the girls that we celebrated today for the graduation, they don't watch WWE every week. They don't watch AEW. I've talked to them about it. And they've never watched wrestling, never thought they were going to watch wrestling, but they enjoy MPX, and they don't have interest in watching any of the stuff on TV,
Exactly.
And that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually something somebody had said at one point that I'm like, I never really thought about it that way. It's like there's a lot of MPX addicts in which they watch MPX. They don't. They're not wrestling fans. They're MPX fans.
Yeah.
And it's like slight difference between the two. And I'm like, I never thought about it like that, but there is truth to that. It's like because not just the girls, but there are other people who are like, I like MPX.
Sure.
Other indie stuff, especially, other people, I'm not so big on, but MPX, I'm all for.
Yeah.
And just, that's actually one of the things I love about this. And you contribute a lot to that, actually.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
You're the voice of MPX.
Well, thank you.
But your chemistry with Tyler, especially on commentary here and everything like that. We have people who watch the network at home that I'm talking to on my phone while the show's going on. They'll make comments about what you're saying at the same time because it's like they're watching it with that.
Yeah.
There are times in which I'm like, I need to turn on the network just to hear it.
Well, and that goes back. I'm a fan. I enjoy being here every week. I always say, when I don't enjoy it anymore, I'm not going to be here.
Right.
And it's just, no one wants to dread going to work, right?
Yeah.
And to me, this isn't work. But yeah, me and Tyler, I think we have a really good chemistry, and that didn't happen overnight. That's him and I've been doing commentary now 3 years, maybe more.
Yeah.
No, probably more, maybe almost 4.
I was gonna say, I think it's
And so the time just goes by. It blends, right? And so, but him and I feel like we're the best together that we've ever been. And so, he's one of my favorite people now that I've ever done commentary with. So I enjoy it.
With obviously things change now because there is a new buyer, a new owner of MPX.
Yeah.
When the announcement happened, what was kind of your first thought? Were you trying to get elsewhere? Or were you like, yeah, you know what, I'm good?
So it was more the latter. So I remember I got the message. It was a Wednesday. I was at a friend's house and just happened to look at my phone, and it kind of hit me like a ton of bricks.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa. Okay. And so almost without even thinking about it, I was kind of like, all right, well, I guess I'm going to be done then. Because, again, I've been here so long, I like the fact that this is weekly and it's Saturday. That's why, I don't work any other place anymore. And, again, it's no offense to any of those places. It's just the fact that, I got tired of being at multiple shows a week. I'm kind of lazy sometimes. I'm not going to lie. And so I'm like, all right, I just want to stick to the one. If this ended, if MPX was going away and no one had bought it, then I had kind of come to terms where I was like, all right, I've had a good run. I've done it for 16 years. It'll be nice to have Saturdays free, and so that was it. And then I heard that it was being bought, and I was like, okay, well then I'm still in. It was as simple as that, But I was I always said, if MPX ever shut down, that was probably going to be it for me.
Right. You never had any dreams or aspirations, even when you first started, like, oh, maybe I could do WWE and stuff like that.
Everyone dreams about that, but I think again, I've always. It comes back to laziness, if I'm being 100% honest with myself, not putting myself out there. Even when I was doing other shows, it was just shows here in the DFW area. I don't like long car rides. I don't like driving. I live in Dallas, and I would jokingly tell Stephen Kirby that if he ever moved MPX even just 10 miles further to the west, it was going to be too far for me to drive. But yeah, so I never really put myself out there. I mean, if it had happened, it would have been great, but I never tried. I was happy with my lot.
Right.
I got a question from Eric Ringel. Who's one wrestler you'd love to commentate on? Any business that
any wrestler in the world to commentate a match right now, I'd probably say Bryan Danielson. The guy's great. He's been great for a long time. I'd love to call one of his matches. But we've had a lot of good wrestlers here, that have big names that I've been like, wow, I can't believe I got to commentate that guy's match. Tommy Dreamer, who we just had, and we've had him here like 4 times now. Going back to that old ECW mark in me, it's always cool to be standing in the ring while Alice in Chains is blaring and introduce Tommy Dreamer. I'm like, that's pretty cool. Even this last time, like I had done it 3 times prior, but that was cool. We've had way back in the day we had Jerry Lynn. That was awesome. Trying to think who else we've had here that I've really enjoyed. Yeah, X-Pac. Yeah, that's right. I'm looking at the poster over there. X-Pac for sure. Guys, we had Funaki once upon a time way back in the day. That was cool. Any guys like that where I'm always like, hey, it's it's a pleasure to meet you, and it's fun to call your matches. I enjoy that, so that's always awesome.
Nice. Awesome. Greg asks, when you got into ring announcing, did you have anyone that was a big influence on your style?
Yeah, Howard Finkel. You go back and if you find some tapes of when I first started, I was doing a Howard Finkel impression, coming down the aisle. And then I kind of found my own voice a little bit, but Howard Finkel, best ring announcer by far in my opinion, for sure.
I've actually had talked to some of the guys, and they've said it's if when it comes to people announcing us and everything like that, Cody does it best because he just got the cadence and the deep voice and everything like that when he does it. Yep. It's like cool.
Yeah, I enjoy it. It's fun. And even
also don't eat the mic, which I've seen at TV shows.
No, you don't want to be right up on the microphone, because then you don't have to yell. That's the thing. A lot of people make the mistake of let me yell. No, the microphone is putting your voice out there for you. If you didn't have a microphone, then yell.
No, and I think it's funny whenever, because we see people kind of throw the microphone or whatever, and I think I see you cringe the most when they do.
Sure. Yeah, because look, if that microphone breaks and it's like Kirby doesn't want to replace it, then half of my job's gone. And I don't want to stand here yelling without a microphone. I've had to do that at some shows where something having the microphone, and that's not good. It's not good for your voice, but it's just it's not fun.
Yeah, even with projection, it's like in a small place like this with as many people as we get in here, having to do that would be really difficult.
Yeah.
Because it's like even in matches when you hear them yelling at each other, you can barely hear what they're saying.
Right.
Let's see. Dexter says Cody and Tyler are without a doubt 2 of the best storytellers in the wrestling today. They deserve to be heard by every wrestling fan.
Oh, that's great. Appreciate the kind words, Dexter. Dexter's awesome. Miss Dexter. Yep. It was great to see him back at the Rumble. He was only in the Rumble for about 5 seconds. Yeah. But it was awesome. Dexter's a good dude.
He booted Red. That was good enough.
Yes. And Dexter was one of those guys that made my job easier. And not just because he's a good wrestler, but entertaining, right?
Yes.
You can get in there and entertain, and I can just sit back and not even really have to say much, just put over a little bit of the story, but so funny, and that's what makes it good too. Again, we can have every single match be a 20-minute, 5-star classic, but you also want someone that's going to come out here, entertain, make you laugh, make you smile, make you mad, to where when you're leaving, that's what sticks out. I can't believe that, Dastardly Villain did that, or, it was great to see that guy get one over on so-and-so.
So you're not against the whole sports entertainment time?
No, not at all. I mean, I don't like that term, but, it is what it is.
Yeah.
But no, I love a good story,
Well, and I think it was we were talking last time, like you and your dad watching wrestling and stuff like that, when the Attitude Era and stuff kind of came about. That wasn't for him.
Oh, he hated it.
He hated the sports.
Absolutely. He would shit all over it. Or I'd be like, hey, watch this really good match, and then he would sit there and tell me 20 reasons why it wasn't a good match.
So yeah, speaking of watching wrestling and everything like that, given how much you've watched and how much you watch now.
Got some children over here.
Just a rat. That's fine.
Yeah, okay, yeah. We got rats in this building. This one's locked up, though. But who were some of your favorites to watch when you were growing up?
Shawn Michaels by far. I think that goes without saying. Yeah, that's why I do a super kick. I love Shawn Michaels. It's the only thing I can do. I always say that. He was my favorite, but I also loved Bret Hart. Going back, as a little kid, I was a Hulkamaniac.
Yeah.
Loved Hulk Hogan. But I remember when I was probably like 10 or 11 is when I think I started getting a little bit more, smartened up to the business, so to speak, and I started liking heels. I remember the first heel I ever liked was Mr. Perfect.
Yes.
Big fan of his. And even, when Shawn Michaels was heel, I really liked him. But, yeah, Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart, and then Attitude Era, Austin Rock, like a lot of other people.
Yeah.
I remember at one point you saying that anybody who uses the Brainbuster instantly has a.
Oh yes. Well, especially anyone that does a good Brainbuster, I'll give him credit. Don't tell him I'm putting him over, but Matt Locke does a really good Brainbuster.
I was actually going to ask you who is someone that you like that every time you see you're like, man, that's solid. I enjoyed it.
I mean, Matt Locke, Dimitri does a real good Brainbuster. Guy hadn't been here in quite a while, but ACH.
Yes.
Back in the day, Chavo Guerrero has a really good Brainbuster.
That was one I always thought was underrated as Chavo.
Yeah,
man,
that was great.
It was always
great. And Eddie. Eddie did a good Brainbuster as well.
It's weird, especially with like Chavo. And locks are a little different, but it's a snap all the way down. It just looks beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Richard Hill says, I will take Cody anywhere I go in wrestling. He is that good and that dependable.
Richard's awesome. Yeah, I mean, every place I've been, with the exception of like one that I've been at, like long term, Richard's been there. This is the only place, I always say this, I was here before Richard, but I was glad when he showed up. I don't know if I would still be here this long if Richard wasn't here, and that's, and not to blow, smoke Richard's away, but that goes back to the creativity, again, Richard's great at coming up with those stories and keeping people interested. I mean, there's times where we'll be sitting here before a show and he's kind of telling me about plans or whatever, and I'll get like a big smile on my face because I'm like, because as a fan I'm like, oh yeah, that's gonna be good, that's awesome. To where that's what keeps me invested, not just for me seeing it, but then I'm like, oh, I can't wait to see how the fans react to this, whether it's someone turning heel or someone winning a title. Like I'm like, oh, they're gonna love that, or oh, they're gonna hate that. I love a good when someone's a heel, like heat, like good heat. Oh my God, I love it. So like if Richard will tell me something, oh yeah, so and so is going to do this and this and this, and I'm like, yes. And then that's the heel deep down in me. I'm like, oh, I can't wait. That's awesome.
That's one of the things.
It's got to be a heel mark.
Yeah. Sure.
Well, and that's one of the things I always, because I used to listen to Bruce Pritchard's podcast all the time, and that was one of the things he said that still sticks with me. I'm like, man, that's actually smart and it makes sense. Is when you have the heel at their greatest, turn them face. When you have the face at the top and you can't go anymore with it, turn it to heel. It's like, oh my gosh.
One of the best like heat spots that I love to this day. Now you don't really see it much anymore, and especially after like 9/11 happened, they stopped doing it. But like National Anthem would be playing, and then like insert villain to come out and interrupt the national. Oh my God, that gets so much heat. And we did that a couple times at PCW. We had Robert Evans, who's Canadian, and there was a show where we had like a little boy. He was probably like 5 years old, a real cute kid, singing the national anthem. And in the middle of this kid singing the national anthem, everyone's standing, hand over their hearts. Robert Evans' music plays and interrupts, and oh my God, people hated it.
Oh, that's so awesome.
And yeah, especially not just because of the national anthem, but it's this cute kid singing the national anthem. Now you're interrupting him. Good stuff.
That is like prime heat, nuclear heat.
Yes,
right there.
yes.
Greg asks, is doing a Rumble match or a hardcore match difficult? Because you talked about, some people make your job easier and everything like that. I assume with the chaos of matches like a Rumble.
Well, Rumble and hardcore are different. So Rumble I love. I say it every year. My favorite show by far. And once a year is good, but at the same, like if we did Rumbles multiple times a year, I'd love it. Now you don't want to do that because you don't want to kill it, but I love the Rumble. I look forward to it every single year. Because it's action. Like there's never a lull in the action for the most part. There's always something to call.
And I think that's
unless somebody takes over the ring for 5 minutes straight.
Right.
That's still great though.
Yeah, it's still great.
But I think that's what was cool is because we had the Rumble and then halfway we had Aztec Warfare, which is kind of like a Rumble. Right. And I was like, okay, that's cool.
Well, and what makes the Rumble cool is because because I used to, the Royal Rumble was always my favorite pay-per-view, still is. And so it's like, all right, who's number one? Who's number two? Not knowing, and even though as part of the show I know. Sometimes I wish I didn't know. Like I'd like to have a surprise, but at times I need to know. But also the surprises, like the people who return. Like, all right, this is awesome. I can't wait to see the crowd's reaction to Baby D coming out, or Hardakis or whoever. Right? Hardcore match is different because again, it goes back to a good story. Like I can have fun and enjoy calling a hardcore match, especially if there's a good story behind it. Now, if you just say, all right, here's two guys and they're a hardcore match. Well, what does it mean? And if you're not doing it, too often, it's fine. But if you have one every single week, then it kills it, and it means absolutely nothing. But if there's like a good story and these guys have had this rivalry, and now we're gonna have a Falls Count Anywhere hardcore match as like a blow off or whatever, then it's fine, it's good.
Even if it's like Wes and Dexter. Their story and their hardcore match and the story they told while in that match, not even just stuff they did outside that match. That match is one of my favorites, and I loved because West on one of his Whiskey Wednesdays broke that down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he was talking about it and talking about the reason they did things they did and stuff. I'm like, man, that's amazing because, yeah, the story they told was beautiful.
Yeah.
No, Bret Hart is not better than Sean.
Yeah,
no.
it says Bret Hart
No.
better than HBK.
Nope, not true at all.
Who says that?
That would be Patrick, the PR guy.
Well, you can go back and forth on that. I mean, I think it's it could be 1A and 1B, and depending on what was going on. I mean, Bret Hart as a heel during the Canada phase, no better heel around at that time.
No.
He was great. I loved that stuff. That was my favorite era of Bret Hart.
It really was. And the thing that was so great about that is, he's only a heel in America.
Yeah, that was
Canada,
awesome.
Europe, wherever.
And you've never really seen anything like that since,
Excuse me, brain glitch. That's a specific heat right there. Just like hometown pop kind of thing.
Sure. Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
What going back to your announcer and everything, like how hard is it with some people? Like I still can't do it, but when Casey was the catastrophically charismatic.
That hung me up. There'd be times where I'd forget, and because it's so, and that's even now. Like I'm like, I get rid of that because it's too hard, right? So
you're also glad that he changed it to just the true hero.
Yeah. Because it was catastrophically charismatic. So if there were times that I didn't say it, it's because I couldn't remember it. I remember catastrophic, but charismatic would always catch me up. And
that's probably one of the hardest ones.
That, and then when people come in and they have like a difficult hometown to pronounce, whether it's I feel like I can, my Spanish is okay. So if someone's from like a city in Mexico, I can pronounce most of them. But every once in a while, someone's like, "Oh, yes, this," and I'm looking at it and I'm like, "Okay, I'll try." I can't guarantee it's going to sound the way.
Did Mictlan trip you up a little?
Yeah, but I did pretty good with that. Now I couldn't tell you what it is at the moment because now it escapes me. It's Matamoros or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I'm like, don't make it difficult on the announcer. Let's pick something a little bit easier.
How also to, I guess, to reverse that, even if they're easy, but someone like Red, who's got like 4 different things to say.
I can see, and I kind of like that though. If it's easy to remember, so that is good. Joangelo Garcia, right? So he used to be the highlight of the night, and then he was like, "Well, the Hispanic causing panic," and I'm like, "Let's use both."
Nice.
I like both. Right now, Mad Prince, he's got all these. All right, the Prince of the Metroplex. He's the Addicts champion. He's Mr. MPX. I'm like, yeah, especially as a heel. Yes, like let's add on to that. I think that's fun.
So you would be fine with sitting there for 30 seconds, just one person.
If it's good, there's a line where it's like, all right, this isn't good, or it's not, getting you heat or whatever, right?
Well, I was gonna say there was one. Of course, can't talk about him now. He was blacklisted, but his intro was like that. He had a list of different.
Yeah, there's been a handful of guys. There was a time where JD Griffey had, and I had it saved on my phone, and so I would have to read it because it was long, and I wasn't going to remember it. But I think that kind of made it even better. The fact, all right, look at the announcer; he has to read from his phone all the stuff Jerome Daniels gave him to say.
Exactly.
That's about that point. I'd get it. I'd put it all on a note card and just make a show out of it. It's just like
right.
Which we never seen you use a note card. You hate note cards, don't you?
I don't hate them. I feel like I'll write something down and I'll keep it over at the table. Now if it's long, I think if I do have to read something, I'd probably prefer to read it from a note card than a phone. But this 2022, you see people read from the phone a lot. The main thing I don't like, and I see every once in a while, is ring announcers just have a sheet of paper that you can see has been folded. Like that doesn't look as professional. Yeah. If you got to read off of something, I've told people, we've had a handful of people come in here and do announcing for a little bit. I'm like, if you have to read it from note card, because the note card does look more professional for sure. Yeah. But I'll write it down, and if it's hard for me, like right before I get in the ring, I'm like, all right, where's he from? All right, cool. And so I can remember it for 30 seconds, hopefully.
Yeah. Well, and like you said, at this point with it being weekly, you kind of have the same people, so it's ingrained in your memory, like you just know it.
Absolutely.
That definitely makes it easier. I remember last time we had you on, you were talking about basically going around to people, and it's like some of them just being difficult about giving the information.
Not necessarily. So okay, and this is still a pet peeve of mine to this day. And there's guys that wrestle here. Listen up, young guys. This is all make believe, right? Hate to break it to people. You can be from anywhere in the world. You don't have to be from Burleson. Sorry, Jacob Lindsay. You don't have to be from, Bedford. You can be from anywhere. It doesn't matter if you've actually been there.
It's like the Iron Belly comes out from under.
Well, yeah, you can be from places that aren't even real, and that's cool too, But the guys would be like, well, I grew up in Fort Worth, so I want to be from Fort Worth. Like, but you can't. I mean, look, if everyone was from where they legit are from, then almost everyone in the show would be from somewhere in the DFW area.
Yep.
Like, you wouldn't have like be from Miami, be from Chicago, like wherever,
Yep.
Wherever fits your character.
Yeah, what fits your
character. Yeah.
Might
And that's the thing too. You got to fit your character. I mean, if you're a pale white person like me or Jay here, you don't want to be from Miami because Miami's from the sun. It's like we look like we've never been in the sun, so Miami's probably not a good choice.
No, definitely not. Yeah. Let's see. Greg says, "Have you ever been doing commentary or play-by-play and the audio messed up, or you?
Yeah.
Your mic ever messed up? And
all the time.
How did you compensate?
I mean, we've been good here for the most part. Every once in a while, I have some technical glitches, but we've been lucky enough here to have pretty good equipment and people that understand how to operate that equipment. But I've been at shows where things mess up, not necessarily. Well, see, on commentary, if something messes up at the time, I wouldn't typically know it. So there was a show, and I can't remember where it was, but it wasn't MPX, and we did commentary, and afterwards, like, yeah, nothing was working. It didn't record. Well, okay, I guess it's lost, But now the microphone for like introductions, for the arena intros, and again, that hasn't really happened much here, but it's happened where hello, it's not working, and then I've had to kind of yell to the crowd, all right, introducing first, But you just make do. You just have to roll with the punches. You got to go along with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Keith also mentioned I think Keith Lee had the most things to say before his
actual
name.
He did. Great story. I'm glad Keith Roberts said that. So this was at VIP, and I don't even remember the match, but Keith Lee, who was a babyface, and I'm the arena announcer, he had this stuff, and he told me ahead of time, and I did write it down, but at the same time, I remember I left my paper at the table, and now I'm in the ring, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to wing it, because he would have this thing where he was introduced from, it was Power Man 5000 or something like that, and I screwed it up. I'm probably screwing it up now. And he in kayfabe mode, he like comes over and admonishes me, and he tells me the right thing, and I say it. I'm like, I'm sorry, And then because I think it was like a Dragon Ball Z reference maybe, and so I've never watched Dragon Ball Z, and so I get back to the commentary. Now I'm the babyface play-by-play, but I started ripping him for. I'm like, because I think Kyle was doing commentary. He's like, oh, you messed up his. I'm like, guys, what a big nerd or whatever. Next show, he's like, hey man, I saw your commentary, and Keith Lee's a very big imposing guy, but we've always been friendly, and I'm like, oh, and he's like, that was funny stuff, man, and I'm like, oh, cool, glad you like it.
I love your reactions with Matt Locke when he makes you do it like 3 times. Yeah,
I mean, that's always fun, and it's fun to have those reactions. And when someone like Matt Locke does something dastardly, it's fun to have a reaction to it on the commentary too. I try not to cuss a lot because I don't. If you ever watch a lot of the indie shows and you hear like just the commentator just cussing like it's natural conversation, like I mean, I don't like that. I think every now and then, if it's to put something over, there was I think the first time I ever cussed here at MPX was Hardakis came back, maybe it was a Rumble, and I go, holy shit, it's Hardakis. Yeah. To where it kind of became a running thing. So then for the first couple times after that, when he came back, I did the same thing. Yep. Now, I think there was something recently where Matt Locke did something dastardly. I can't remember what it was. And I said, oh, you got to be shitting me. Little things like that's fine. But if I'm just sitting here and I'm like, oh, look at that fucking suplex. Oh, look, no, come on. Same with promos. I hate when guys, every now and then make it mean something, almost like an exclamation point to where the crowd goes, oh. And you'll hear it, Tatum Manning.
I was going to say Tatum and Jerome most recently.
Yeah. Tatum Manning uses a cuss word like, oh. But if Tatum came out here every single week and used it, it loses its flavor. It loses its luster.
And it gets boring.
And it's like, all right, whatever. That's the guy that cusses, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's like we even try to, not so much, at least on mainline, we try to keep from cussing all the time. Get that PG-13.
Well, and that's a little bit different. Like, if you listen, if you're I listen to a lot of podcasts. I think that's because it is more conversational. Like in this setting, I think it's now granted if you're wanting a younger audience to listen and maybe you want to try to tone it down, that's fine too. But to me, that's not a bad thing if we're doing it, in this setting or like a mainline or whatever, as opposed to here in the ring cutting a promo, right?
Right.
Yeah. I am like way behind on comments right here. Ah, there we go. Okay.
You found them.
Sort of. Still not great.
Yeah.
Gotta love, live entertainment and everything like that.
Of course. What so going back to kind of your dad and everything, do you have like a specific match or something that stands out of your dad's?
For sure, the best, and it's on YouTube. Anyone can go search it. My dad and Dick Murdoch, who was my godfather, actually. Great match in Japan, very bloody brawl. And Tommy Dreamer had actually shared it on his Instagram a couple weeks before he came here.
Oh, nice.
And he didn't know. You know, Dreamer's been here before, but he didn't know. I don't go around saying, "Oh, hey, my dad's Killer Crocs" or whatever. So when he came here this past time, I went up and was like, "Hey, I appreciate you sharing that." I'm like, "That's my dad and that's my godfather." And he was like, "Really?" And he didn't know. And so we had like a nice 20-minute conversation in the back, just kind of talking about my dad and Murdoch and old school wrestling. And so that's always cool when I see people acknowledge him like that. Every once in a while on AEW, Jim Ross will mention my dad's name if someone hits a brain buster or whatnot, So that's cool. I appreciate that.
I've heard that, and then listening to JR's podcast, he's mentioned your dad quite a bit.
For sure.
And that's something that's always kind of, struck me is, I guess it's one thing I liked about you when we first interviewed you was how, you were always like, I'm not going to use my dad's name. Like, I'm just going to, I'm going to get in on my own. Or even like originally you didn't even want to be Cox, right?
Well, it wasn't I didn't want, I didn't even think about it, to be honest with you. I was trying to think about, so I started doing I was about to start doing the ring announcing at PCW, and Travis Baxter again was like, "Hey, well, what do you want to be called?" And I was like, "Oh, I didn't think about that." And then I don't know why. So my mom's maiden name was Adams. And so for whatever, I was like, Cody Adams maybe? And I was like, and then a part of me was like, well, Cody Michaels being a Shawn Michaels mark, but there was also an indie wrestler way back then named Cody Michaels too. And I was like, And so then Travis Baxter was like, well, why don't you just use Cox and change, because I legit spell Cody with a C. Yeah. And he was like, and you can spell Cody with a K. And I was like, oh yeah, that's kind of cool. Like that didn't even dawn on me for some reason, And so, I can't even imagine, being called anything else now.
Hey, it works out. Jeez. So, you've talked about growing up in wrestling and everything like that, and obviously your dad kind of like all but screaming at the the television at the newer stuff. But you've gotten to meet some like really incredible guys throughout the years.
Oh, for sure. I mean, not just here doing what we do, and we have special people come in, right? But growing up, so whenever WWF or WCW came to town, my dad knew people, so he would, and again, me and my brother, big fans at the time. My dad would get us tickets, but then he would go too, and we'd go backstage. So like in the heyday of WWF, because my dad was great friends with Bobby Heenan. Bobby Heenan was actually the only manager my dad ever had. There's actually some stuff on YouTube if you type in Bobby Heenan, Carl Cox, when my dad was in Georgia and Florida. And so they were great friends. And so Bobby Heenan would always get us tickets, even if he wasn't here. Most of the time he wasn't here because it'd be like house shows, and Bobby Heenan wasn't on house shows. But we'd go backstage, and I got pictures of us with Hulk Hogan, Ultimate Warrior. I mean, any guy that was around back then, you name it. And then when Heenan left WWF to go to WCW, my dad was also really good friends with Gerald Briscoe. So then Gerald Briscoe started getting us tickets, and then Bobby Heenan was able to get us tickets in WCW. And so that was fun, and we got to do that up until probably right after I graduated high school. Then my dad, he was getting older. He didn't feel like going to shows anymore, so we stopped getting to go backstage, but we'd still get, free tickets. So that was always cool.
Awesome.
What was your allegiance in Monday Night Wars?
Oh, I was always a WWF fan first. I watched Raw live and would tape Nitro, but then for a while they would replay Nitro. So I'd watch Raw first and then watch Nitro. Yep.
Okay, I'm not getting updates on the comments
I was
at all.
Say,
technical difficulties.
It's so white, it's on the table, I can't see.
Yeah.
So have you ever done play-by-play?
He was talking. That's the one where he was talking about, something went wrong. How did he compensate?
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you ever done live play-by-play? I know when we were watching Matthew Palmer, he had a situation where there was an
I saw that story, yep, and I agree with him 100%. Live play-by-play sucks. I've never done it. There was I can't remember the place now. There was a place years ago before MPX where I went and they wanted to do it, or they gave us the option. They're like, do you guys want to do live play-by-play? And I was like, no. Like that's for the same reason Palmer said, because I went to a show out in Kemp years ago. It was while PCW was running, and they brought Richard in to book there too, and so I was part of the faithful. So Richard basically went in and brought all his guys in, which pissed a lot of people off out in Kemp. But they were doing live play-by-play, and this might be, I think it was probably the same place Palmer was talking about, because I think, did Palmer mention Nigel Rabid?
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, that was the same place, because Nigel Rabid was there. It was the first time I met Nigel, and they're doing play-by-play, and like Palmer said last week, right?
Yeah.
It makes no sense if the heel's cheating behind the referee's back, and I'm the referee. I hear the commentators say, "Oh, he's got a pair of brass knucks." Well, it makes logical sense as the referee for me to turn around and be like,
Right.
"Oh, thanks, commentator, for telling me." So no, that sucks. That's the only place I've ever been where
every ref's deaf. It's
yeah,
okay.
no live.
What's funny
live
is
play-by-play not good.
the next day I saw some live cast of a wrestling show happening.
Yeah.
And they were doing live play-by-play. I'm like, oh my god.
And Matt said it best last time. Like, people don't go to the live show to see. People don't go to AEW Live to hear JR.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They can record it and go home and then watch it back. If people want to hear me and Tyler, that's what the network's for. Come here and enjoy the live experience and then go home and watch it.
Right.
Yeah.
But to do, I'd be dead set if anyone would try to say, hey, we're going to do live commentary for not. No, absolutely not.
Yeah, actually, I think that was one of my favorite technical issues back when the network first started up. Occasionally, sound would get something crossed.
Yeah.
And I'd be sitting over there, and I could hear you and Tyler commentating at the same
Oh
time.
yeah.
It's like,
Yeah, it's always weird too.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh wow, I'm hearing the action live. Cool. And then I'd message whoever's doing sound. It's like, hey,
Right.
something you might want to fix.
Yeah.
Out of because you talked about a little bit with Dreamer and Lynn, out of the people, I guess you've had guest appearances here, who's kind of been your favorite?
I have to say Tommy Dreamer because he's just been by far the coolest. Everyone here has been cool. Don't get me wrong. There's never been someone we brought in where I've been like, oh, that guy's kind of a jerk,
Right.
We had Chris Bay recently, and Chris Bay was cool,
Yeah.
very nice. And a lot of these guys too, I think would surprise people. Very reserved. Like who else? Like Chris Bay was one. Way back in the day, we had Jimmy Jacobs.
Yep.
And he was a little bit odd, but he was nice. You'd go to shake his hand, and he had a giant container of Mike and Ike's that he would give you. I think that's just he didn't want to shake your hand, so he'd give you some Mike and Ike's instead. But like I said, everyone's been cool. X-Pac's been great. We've had Hornswoggle. Hornswoggle's awesome. Like that dude, he wants to go to the bar and hang out, and he'll talk wrestling with you all day. And going back to Dreamer, like when I first met Tommy Dreamer, I was like, all right, this guy probably gets beaten down with ECW questions all the time. It's been it was only a small part of his career, but it's been a long time, and so I'm sure everyone when they meet him wants to talk that.
Right.
And so I'm like, I'm not going to bring up ECW. He brings it. Like he enjoys talking about that stuff, and I think he knows people want to talk about it, and I don't think he has an issue with it.
Right.
And so he'll have no problem sitting there and telling you a story about, oh yeah, me and Taz, we were in Puerto Rico, and Brian Lee showed up, and blah blah blah. And so they're like, all right, cool. So I think that's kind of cool because people they probably want to hear Tommy Dreamer talk about ECW. So it's cool that he doesn't mind because I think a lot of guys be like, I don't want to talk about that anymore. Like, how many times can people ask me about that?
Well, and that's the thing. Like, I think one of my favorites, is Dreamer because he's always so nice every time he comes
Very
in.
nice.
And Hornswoggle, same. Eddie Kingston was one of my favorites.
Yes, Eddie was great.
Eddie was just so nice. And again, we weren't talking about wrestling. We were just talking about, I think DMX is what we were talking about.
Yeah.
And it was hilarious because I would take a picture. He goes, oh, you're taller. You can't be taller, man. You got a chair. And
Yeah.
Like, Eddie Kingston
awesome.
was just
Yeah.
great.
That was great.
For sure.
Yeah, I always think that's funny when guys will come out and they look tall and imposing in the ring, but they stand next to him and suddenly,
Well,
Jeff Cobb may be short, but that guy,
yeah.
like I stood up next to Jeff Cobb, I'm like, God, you're huge. You're not huge, but you're huge.
right.
So you occasionally get involved actually with the stories themselves.
Sure, yeah.
Anything like that. What's been your favorite one to do on that?
I'm trying to think now. Yeah, okay. So, God, it's 4 or 5 years ago now. I was in a tag match here at MPX in this building where it was me and Michael Schaefer against Johnny Melee and Eamon, for those that remember Eamon. And so, because Eamon was managing, well, first he was managing Schaefer, and then he went with Melee, and then they were kind of picking on me a little bit. And so the story was I challenged him to a tag match. Schaefer had been away for a while, and he was like my mystery partner. That was fun. Yeah. Back in the day at PCW, I got to be in a really fun mixed tag where it was me and Claudia against Kyle Davis and Athena. Nice. And so that was fun, and I remember just being so tired, so blown after that match. But that was a lot of fun. Just going back to the faithful stuff where I used to manage, that was always a lot of fun. Getting to get involved. My whole thing was I'd be in commentary with Rob Moore, and Mike Fox was the champion, and something would be going terribly wrong, and I'd take off the headset and be like, "Time for Plan B, Rob," and I'd get up to help Mike cheat, whether it's giving him something for a fireball or whatever. That was always fun. I enjoyed that.
When the faithful re-debuted at MPX at the end of the old building, was there ever an idea for you to rejoin them?
Well, I did for a minute. So what happened was trying to remember now. So, because I'd been doing commentary and announcing, and so I did join them, but we were baby faces, which was a first for the faithful. And I think they were feuding with the Trust Fund. Yep. And so then something happened, and I can't remember what, but whoever was going to be doing commentary was leaving or something like that. And so it was at the end of the night, what was supposed to happen was the faithful, we were all going to turn on Mike Fox, and Mike was going to be babyface, and the rest of us were going to be heels. So it was like me, James.
That's right, Scott McKinney.
Yeah, Scott McKenzie. Yeah. And so there was kind of like at intermission, like we kind of made an audible because it was like, all right, can you go back on commentary? And I was like, yeah, I'll do it. I'm a team player, whatever you want. And so then at the end, so we made the decision at the end of the night they didn't just turn on Mike, they turned on me as well, and then I'm back in commentary. So, but that was fun.
So we were talked about like the most wild stuff that's happened. It's like, has there ever been a moment where card subject to change happens like before you even know about it? And you
sure, yeah. And I always tell people, like, so I get here a couple hours just like everyone else before the show. For the most part, I feel like I could show up 5-10 minutes before and sit down and not know what's going on and call the action as a play-by-play guy. There are certain things I do need to know ahead of time, like it's like, hey, make sure you don't talk about this, or you don't want to foreshadow, or maybe you do want to foreshadow. So kind of talk about these two guys have been having problems a little bit, But for the most part, like I don't need to know what's going on, especially as an announcer. So if I think there's a match that's about to happen, and let's say they changed the order for some reason in the back, I hear so-and-so's music. All right, I guess that's the guy I'm announcing, so I know what to say. Yeah, I mean, you got to be adaptable. You got to be able to,
like today with Tatum's music
to go with the flow.
Yeah, like I even looked at you, and you just kind of looked like, what music is this?
All right, well, I knew who was coming out next. I'm like, all right, they're using someone else or different music, and that's fine. But you got to go with the flow, because if not, then it's not going to go good. You can't do it for long if you're not adaptable.
Yeah, definitely. You got nothing?
What?
You guys out of questions already?
Yeah, I guess so, yeah.
Well, all right.
But
I guess, I mean, like you said, so you did enjoy the managing a little bit. Is that something you think you would ever, if, I guess, a story came up and you were like, yes, that fits, you would want to do it? Or are you like, nope, I'm good doing what I'm doing?
No, I mean, I'm always open. If there's a cool story, I mean, but this is what I've always said. So when I'm, like, I got a taste of managing, really loved it, and then went back to commentary, and I missed managing. Yeah. But then at the same time, like, I know, like, I hate sitting around in the back for 2 hours. So there'd be times where, as part of the Faithful, and I traveled to a few shows after PCW was shut down with Mike Fox, and I was managing Fox, and we're in the main event. And show starts at 7. We get there, at 5 or whatever. Yep. And then he doesn't go on until 8:30, 9 o'clock. It's a lot of sitting around. Yep. And for the wrestlers, they're going over their match, and maybe there's a couple spots I need to know as the manager, but I'm just a lot of boredom, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so I like being out here for the whole time. And don't get me wrong, there's times where I'm like, oh man, like that would be fun. That'd be cool to do this or that. Yeah. But I also know me, like I know I'll stop announcing and I'll be sitting in the back for 3 hours and be like, oh man, I wish I was out there, because I like being out here. Yeah. And it's part of it's an ego thing. I got an ego just like everyone else. I'm the one that's out here for the entire time. No one else. Not even Tatum Manning or Stephen Kirby or whatever, right?
Yeah, when we were putting together the MPX Academy for the fan awards and everything like that, after we went through all the trouble of deciding who was going to be nominated for what and everything like that, somebody pops up with, well, why don't you ask Cody and Tyler?
Right.
They're out there every week for every match. I'm like, damn it.
Well, and the hope is that we remember, because like I said, I have a bad memory sometimes. Yep. But yeah, for sure. No, like I said, I'd be open to whatever would pop up, but I mean, I'm willing to listen to ideas, but at the same time, I like being the voice of MPX, and one day I'm not going to be the voice of MPX. I don't think that's going to be anytime soon, but here we are.
Yep. With like you said, you get here early just like everyone else and stuff like that. Is there times where you kind of not necessarily help set up matches, but you maybe give an idea?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, and I enjoy doing that. I never want to step on anyone's toes, because I don't want anyone to think, oh, this announcer guy thinks he knows more than me about setting up a match. But a lot of the younger people, I'm like, hey, can I give you an idea? And everyone's always, very receptive to ideas. Sometimes people will ask me, I won't name names because they might not want to admit that they've asked me for help, but I'm like, oh yeah, because I'm not doing all, because I don't have matches to put together. Right. So I'll look over the card and kind of figure out what needs to be done. But other times I'm just sitting there watching people put their stuff together, and I'll be like, hey, can I can I give you an idea or a thought? Yeah. They're like, yeah, sure. And sometimes they use them, sometimes they don't, and that's fine. Mm-hmm.
Is there is that something you'd ever consider maybe promoting, booking,
No,
anything like that?
I'm not that creative. I can add like little things. Like if you tell me, hey, this is the story I'm going to do, I can maybe add something to it. Kind of punch it up a little bit and be like, oh yeah, I think that'd be cool if then you did this. But if you're like, hey, here's a roster, start from scratch and come up with your own storylines, I couldn't do it and I wouldn't want to do it. That's a headache, in my opinion, anyways.
Yeah. So Richard Hill asks, how easy is it to pop Cody?
Well, I mean, I don't think it's easy at all. You gotta be pretty funny to pop me. And don't get me wrong, Richard's funny, but at the same time too, I try to be. Sometimes I don't want to be popped just to mess with Richard. Like when he would sit there, he would say something and look right at me, and I wouldn't sell it at all. And I could see him looking at me in my peripheral, but I'm looking straight ahead, and I know that gets to him that I'm not selling it. But yeah, I mean, it happens from time to time. And I like popping people too, especially, but you don't want to get too inside, right? But there'll be times where I would try to pop Richard with something. Maybe we mentioned something before the show in conversation, and then I'll bring it back up. And then obviously it's inside, and like I said, you don't want to be too inside. But there'll be times where I'll mention something and get a laugh out of him or even Tyler.
What was it like to sit here as the ceiling Phil?
How was that call?
Actually, Richard was talking about this.
So we're sitting down there, and that was the first match of the night, right? And I almost like I saw it obviously happen as it happened, but it was almost like I can't even describe it because it was like, did that really happen? Like, did I just see what I think I saw?
Right.
And Richard and Tyler, I think both reacted before I did because I was still like, did that ceiling just fall? and Richard immediately reacted and jumped on it. And so then I'm like, oh yeah, this, but the show goes on and they did a great job. Yeah. And then it turned into a story. Like who would have thought that?
And I think that was the thing that got me the most is Nick is 2 or 3 months in at that.
Yeah.
And immediately checked on the fans. Checked
yeah,
the wrestlers. I'm like,
they did a great job. All the security we have here too. They immediately jumped into action. It was like it was almost as like you would have thought they knew it was going to happen. Oh yeah. Which obviously no one did because again
and that's the thing. After that, so many people are like, oh, they planned that plan. No, they just reacted.
No. Yeah, no, and luckily it was kind of an easy fix and it wasn't that, but it could have been disastrous.
How much of a shock was it to you when Athena popped up at the Rumble?
I was excited to see her pop up at the Rumble. I was hopeful that it was going to happen. Actually, going in, just knowing she's here local and Palmer's here, and
he's not supposed to be wrestling right now.
Yeah, that was great. I loved it. And she technically wasn't in the Rumble, but just the fact that she came out and they got an enormous reaction. Yeah. I've gone back and watched that several times since then just to hear that reaction, and that was cool because before Athena got signed, I mean she was here regularly. Yes. So and I've known her since her PCW days. Like I said, I was in a mixed. Not only was I in that mixed tag with her, I've had probably a PCW. I got bumped by Athena more than anyone. There was a battle royal, so when I was a heel that I got thrown into as punishment, and she was the first one to grab me and throw me out. And then they did like a PCW reunion show, and she was a special ref, and I was on the outside managing, and I jumped up and she gave me like a bicycle kick or whatever, and knocked me off the apron. So no, I love her, and I was glad to see her pop up for sure. And then at MPX versus the World, that was when her and Palmer teamed together. That was awesome. Yeah.
Richard says, talk about beating up Rob Moore.
Rob Moore. So Rob Moore was a play-by-play guy at PCW and had been around for a long time. Rob Moore's great. So speaking of popping people, like when I was the heel commentator, my goal was to try to legit piss Rob off. And it wasn't hard because he would get himself so worked up, right? So like Mike Fox won the title, like he cheated, I'd helped him cheat, and I'm jumping up and down. And he's like, sit down, you ass clown. Like he got so mad. So then, we're being dastardly heels and we're beating up everybody. And so they grabbed, I remember there was a cage set up. They had a cage match and they throw Rob in and they handcuffed him or they taped him or something to the cage. And I'm just waylaying on him, right? I'm just like punching him left and right, just kicking his ass. And every time I see Rob, and I haven't seen him in a while, but he always mentions that. He's like, watch it now, Cody Cox. Don't come too close. But we always had fun with that. And then I think there was a time where Rob probably got some payback, and he ended up like nailing me one or whatever. But I got my comeuppance.
Those are always fun.
Yes.
How is it sitting on commentary and seeing something happen, like kind of an injury that is actually legit.
Yeah, that's always rough, and I cringe, and hopefully you don't see that too often, right? But and sometimes I don't know, right?
Yeah.
Like I'll be like, is this guy like really doing a good job of selling? Right. And there's times where I think someone's legit hurt, and they fooled me, and I get to the back, and they're like, oh no, I'm good. I'm like, oh cool. And that's what you always want to be the case. I always want it to be the case that I was fooled, but there's times where you see it and you know for sure. Thankfully, I don't think we've had anything recent, that bad. I mean, look, things happen. Guys get broken noses. Guys get busted open by accident.
Guys concuss themselves. And,
I was going to say
that was the one. Yeah,
that's the one I think of the most
for sure. That was scary. Brandon King got an MFer from Mike Fox, and it was just like a very if you tried to do it that way again, you probably couldn't. It was very accidental, where the way he was falling and his hand was coming up, and I didn't realize that's what happened at first. I think a lot of us thought he had a seizure or something or whatever, and I see him laying, I see the way his arm was kind of, and I'm like, well, that's an odd way to sell, and then I'm like, oh, I think, and so I immediately hopped off.
I think he's selling.
Yeah, and I remember grabbing his hand. I'm like, Brandon, you okay? And I'm not getting a response, and Mike is just looking down like, oh crap, what did I do? And then we're like, all right, get help.
Yeah.
And he's a good sport about it. I mean, everyone, anytime anyone sees Brandon, for the most part, they give him shit about it.
That's able to be woven into the storyline.
Yeah.
Like he's there with the neck bracelet. Jason, be careful.
Yeah, and that's one of those things I've so the MFR by Mike Fox, I've probably taken more than any other move in wrestling. Not just from Mike, but from any. I've taken here from Exodus. I've taken it from James Johnson. I took it half a dozen times at PCW. It's super easy to take, but it was just a mishap.
So that actually does bring up a good question. Have you ever actually gotten a formal training in the ring stuff?
No, not at all.
No?
I mean, I just if you watch anytime I get bumped, now, I never take a back a bump, right? So again, with the MFR cut or whatever you want to call it, it's a flat, it's turning my head. And so I've always taken easy stuff. I've never really taken anything that I was nervous about. I took a curb stomp one time, but that was super easy. Again, just turning your head. I've never really been lifted up. Gabe Walter gave me the GTSB. That's probably the biggest thing, but that wasn't even anything too difficult. So, and even when I've done matches, whoever I've been in a match with, everyone's always done their best to take care of me, and I've never gotten hurt. The only time I really got hurt, and it was by accident. This was way back at PCW. Faithful stuff was happening, and it was towards the end of PCW, and we were splitting up. And Mace Malone, great guy, nice guy, big, strong, powerful guy, doesn't know his own strength. Spot was, I hit him in the back with a kendo stick. Doesn't affect him at all. He's supposed to grab me and throw me to the outside. And as I'm going to the outside, I try to grab the middle rope as I go through. He throws me so hard, I couldn't grab the rope. And at that building at PCW at the time, it was concrete on the outside. And I landed right on my hip and side, and I thought I was about to die. And I didn't have a broken rib, but I had a bruised rib for a while, and it was a little bit tougher to breathe, and I was walking funny because of my hip for a while. And Mace, again, great guy, he apologized profusely. He's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, hey, these things happen, not a big deal. But
and I was going to get to it because you're talking about when you're a manager and stuff like that. I always figured taking the back bumps off, if you're on the apron on the outside and you get hit and you hit the apron and then roll out. Those always seem like oh God, Bobby the Brain Heenan is. And that's something I think people don't realize, and they really should look up. Bobby was actually a good wrestler.
Oh, absolutely.
Man, he could bump.
He was the best. But that's also why he ended up with neck injuries, neck problems later on, because he was taking a lot of those crazy bumps. I've always, I'm up for anything, especially if I trust the guy that's doing it,
Right.
I would have been more than happy to go through a table or whatever, But thankfully it's nothing big's ever happened.
Civil disorder will remember that.
Right.
Chris Fulmer asks, do you have any routines or superstitions you have while you're doing play-by-play?
Not really. I'm not really a superstitious person. I just try to know my stuff. I try to remember, what's happened from week to week, especially if it's, important to the story. But other than that, no. I mean, I'll stop on the way here and grab either a Starbucks or an energy drink or something, and that's really it, and just kind of hang out. I mean, there's no superstitions or routines I have.
You don't do the Sandman where you just sit there, 6-pack of beer,
no,
once, and they go, okay, I'm done.
No, not really. And I've never really. There's only been a few times where I've been drinking while commentating. There was a show, I always tell this story, for VIP, and this was one of the coolest like buildings I've ever done a show in. It was at the Admiral Hotel in Arlington. I don't know if you guys ever went to any of those shows. And so really cool venue, right? And our commentary table was set up like behind the crowd, which is different, but it was cool. And there was some kind of hardcore match between Claudia and I can't remember the other girl's name, but they're wrestling all over, right?
Because they came,
they're wrestling all over, and they had waitresses at the Admiral Hotel that would come around and serve drinks, and even when I do drink, it's not a lot, so I was never drunk or even buzzed on commentary, but I enjoy a nice cocktail every now and then, and so I had probably one or two already at this point, and then the waitress is coming over right as Claudia and her opponent are going at it, and so the other girl puts Claudia like through our table. We had to clear. Me and Kyle had to clear our table, and she puts her through the table like at our feet. Brienne, yes. The waitress is right to my left, and I'm not saying it on the microphone, but I've got my glass, and I'm like, can I get another one? And the waitress is just looking down at Claudia, and she's like, oh my god. And the waitress looks at me, she goes, is she okay? And I'm like, yeah, she's fine. If I could get another drink. And she's like, do I need to call someone? No, she's good. Just bring me another drink. So that was fun. That was a fun time.
Ernie asks, why does Richard keep wearing Casey Clay's shirt?
Does he wear Casey Clay's shirt?
I don't. Because it's Batman?
I don't know that reference. I apologize. I don't know.
Assuming because he always wears Batman, and it's a hero, I guess.
Greg Workfield asking, so did you know that Tyler ripped his pants?
Yeah, did you know that Tyler Paulson ripped his pants?
At the Rumble, right? Yeah. No, for sure. I didn't know till, I guess, intermission, and he told me. Because I'm not, checking out Tyler Foster's pants during the show. But, that was fun times.
Yeah, after the show, he was going around showing everyone, he's like, I ripped my pants.
I've been thankful, knock on wood, this isn't wood though, that I've never done that. So far. Now watch, I'll do it next week.
I was going to say, we have Purple Rain coming up. So
yeah.
You'll be in nice clothes then.
Right, yeah, I will.
Oh, hopefully the weather next week is like it is this week.
I think it's going to. I don't think it's going to warm back up till, Sunday, so we should be okay.
Huzzah.
Yeah.
But, excuse me.
So what is your cocktail of choice?
Cherry vodka sour. So I'm not a big beer drinker. I'll pretty much mix vodka with whatever. Lemonade, vodka cranberry.
Best way to do it.
It was vodka.
Yeah, went to Biggs last night, and I don't go out too often, but it was cool to hang out, and had a couple drinks, hung out with Phoebe, Brent McKenzie showed up, Tommy, Gabe showed up, so that's always cool. Like I enjoy that, and that's the one thing too. Like going back to was I going to be okay with leaving if like not doing wrestling again if MPX shut down? And I think ultimately I would have, but I would have missed the camaraderie. There's a lot of camaraderie. I've made a lot of great friends in wrestling, and so I enjoy seeing people. And that's what. And my dad always said the same thing. Like when he was done wrestling, he didn't miss wrestling. He missed seeing his friends. So yeah, that would have happened for sure. And I don't always like go and hang out, but I love Brent, and so when Brent's like, hey, I'm gonna go to the bar. Cool, let's go to the bar and hang out. Especially because Brent's not around that much anymore. Yeah. So that's always fun to go and hang out with guys like that. So.
Yeah, what do you think of some of the returns we're getting next week?
Well, Brent and Machigo. It's gonna be great to see the DTF reunion. Big Fitz, who hasn't been here, several years. Right. I know I've been seeing online. He's been wanting to team with Morgan Mercy. I know he refers to her as his little sister. Mm-hmm. So that's gonna be an interesting match to see how that goes down. Who else is returning next week? I'm trying to remember.
We've got the Crypt coming back together.
Yes, yeah, that's awesome. I popped huge when I saw that match announcement. Yeah. The Crypt versus United Familia Camacho.
I was just like, technically returning. Because I've been here in a while.
Yeah. I'm interested to see Hardakis and Angel Camacho in the same ring together.
Tyler Jett.
That'll be Tyler Jett.
I'm excited.
Yeah, absolutely, the Party Viking. So
do you think he'll have the tiny hammer this time?
Yes, he'll have tiny.
Probably
That's definitely his hateful eight. He has to have the tiny hammer.
But no, a lot of great matches next week. I'm excited that we're getting Purple Rain a little bit earlier this year, but I'm looking forward to it.
Yep. Definitely.
Greg asks, have you ever slipped or fell entering the ring?
Oh yeah, for sure. There's been times where I'll, thankfully it hasn't happened lately, but again, now it's going to happen next week because I'm talking about it. So when I come out, the start of the show, I kind of go around, and give fives, and then I come back and I hop up on the apron. There's been times where I go to hop and I slip and I'll hit my knee and I'm like, that hurts. Other times, just getting in the ring to do the next match. Just not especially when it's dark. Sometimes, right? Like I'll step and I think I'm clear, and I'm like, oh nope, that's the rope. I hit it wrong. Nothing like crazy. And if it happened, you just go with it. People laugh and whatever.
How was gets injured? That's bad luck for a show.
Right.
How was, because I know a lot of people when the new stage first hit and it was new and it was really steep. How was it when you first came out? Are you like, nah?
No, it's fine. I love it, and it's and I always wear shoes, whether I'm in sneakers or if I'm all dressed up in my dress shoes. They're slip resistant, and again, we come out, we're the first ones out, so thankfully like the stage is dry. But you always cringe when I see someone up on the stage pouring the water, because I'm like, all right, someone's gonna come out and slip. And I think we've had it happen a couple times, but thankfully we haven't had anyone get injured or anything just coming down the ramp.
It happened a couple times when we first got it.
People weren't used to it. I loved when we got it. I think that's cool. That's one thing that kind of sets us apart. I've always loved cool entrances. Where you go back to old school WWF stuff where they had like the lawn entrance way, or even sometimes now when they do Royal Rumbles at the baseball stadiums. I'm like, oh, that's unique. Like I just love when different things like that. So when we first started, in the other building, when I first started, it was just, all right, here's an aisle, and here's some makeshift guardrails, weren't even real guardrails, and then you come out, So for us to get like a stage, and we got a lighting truss and everything, like that's awesome. Not a lot of shows have that.
A fog machine.
The fog's awesome. Absolutely,
No, that's the one thing that's always been great about MPX is it's every year it seems they up their production. Like something got better. Oh, we got new lights. Oh, we got a stage. Oh, we got ring steps.
Yeah, and I'm interested. Again, MPX was sold. I'm interested to see what the new owners do. Who knows? Maybe there'll be some more upgrades coming. Right. That's exciting.
Hopefully. I know what everybody's wish is with that.
What is the wish? I don't know.
Yeah, what?
Well, the AC.
AC's
hey, but you know what? And I've known other.
Oh yeah.
No.
There are people who want the couches.
But see, the couches are always. I was always scared to sit on those couches because
exactly.
Look. We have some great fans. Mm-hmm. Yes, we have some great fans. Don't get me wrong, but there's a lot of sketchy looking people sometimes that would sit on those couches, and I'm like, I don't want to sit there anymore.
I personally was never a fan of the couches.
But you mentioned the AC. Hey, you know what? Sometimes it gets a little hot in here, but it's nothing compared to the old building. Nope. If you guys had ever been there, I know people say that all the time, but it's true. There was no AC there. We have AC here. There was no AC, and so I would do, and I hate doing it, but I had to. I would do the shows in t-shirt and shorts, and it looks unprofessional as hell, but if not, like, you're going to be dying and potentially die of a heat stroke.
Well, and that was one thing, like, because Palmer's like, oh, this building's way hotter. I was like, you think so? He goes, well, for the wrestlers, because the lights.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And don't get me wrong.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, I'll get in here sometimes underneath the lights. I'm like, oh, it is a little warm. But yeah, as a fan, for sure.
As a fan, I don't think I've been. There's one other place that was hotter than the old building, and that was some deathmatch tournament I saw in San Antonio, just a tin shed, August.
Yeah, I've done shows like that too. Yep. Not fun.
But yeah, this one's fine. Yeah, exactly. The old Keith pointed out the old building was hell. Don't complain about no AC.
Yeah,
you were there.
Yeah, Keith knows absolutely.
Yeah, that place was.
And Keith didn't wear shorts. Keith puffed it out. He still had the sport coat and the jeans. Yeah, didn't matter how hot it was.
I was gonna try. I really was, but it was not working. I was like, nope. I don't want to die.
Yep.
Especially not you have to drive.
That's actually something I was going to get to, Greg. Did you choose your entrance music? Did somebody choose it for you?
I chose it. So, big Jay-Z fan. Yeah. But before MPX, Richard was booking a show, OXW, which was in Fort Worth, and he called me in, like he mentioned, and they had a ring announcer, and he didn't want me to ring announce, he didn't want me to manage. He was like, hey, what do you think about coming in as like an authority figure, like a GM? And I'd never done that before, and I was like, hell yeah, like I was really excited about that. So I chose that music for when I started there, because the whole thing was, the first line of the song is allow me to reintroduce myself, and my thought was, okay, I'm reintroducing myself to the fans, but not as an announcer, as like the GM. And I literally got to be GM there for 2 shows, and then they shut down. And so then, when I first came to MPX again, I was managing, so I didn't need my own music. And then when I started announcing, they're like, hey, well, what music do you want? And I didn't even hesitate. I was like, that's it.
Yep.
And I don't ever want to change it. Like, I love that song, and so that'll be my entrance music until I'm done.
So you got the seniority when they're like, we need to pare it down to one song for all of the
oh yeah, for sure.
Come in. It's like,
yeah.
Seven Dust,
absolutely.
Tyler Seven Dust, I love. We never hear it.
Yeah. Well, he gets to live with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. can we get something like to cover his side?
What?
Just a little bit, because we keep getting these.
Yeah, I know. Like, I'll see a Facebook thing, but I'm like, it's on the white table. I can't read it.
Oh, it's
the
fine.
white mixes in.
It's
So,
good.
Adam, just type it 3 more times and we'll see it.
Go scroll up.
At least just one more time,
But yeah, no, we're good.
Yeah. But
What?
we're getting something to cover this.
I was going to say, at this point, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, we're
Dark. You guys had, dang it, it was dark.
Computer bag. I'll grab it.
That works too. I was gonna say the clapperboard.
That'll work.
Or you just retype the
Facebook
question.
Live, folks. Facebook Live.
Ladies and gentlemen. Right there. Now what does it say?
Don't know yet.
You gotta give it a second. It's
Yeah,
delayed.
That far behind.
Oh, yeah. For some reason, I've been way behind.
Yeah. Sorry about that, ladies and gents.
This is like a base 15 seconds behind.
Or like I said,
Usually only
just
about 5.
retype it.
Yeah. You guys had to move equipment around in the old building.
I didn't.
Oh, you do what I do. You're just a voice talent.
Yeah.
I know
No,
I learned that
but
from someone.
But yeah, that old building was, I mean, it was fine for what it was when we were using it, right? And doing a show, once a month, and then we went to twice a month. But yeah, Kirby and all those guys, they'd show up early to move all the gym equipment, and they had to make sure it was going back right where it needed to. So they were taking pictures to make sure that nothing was off, or else they were going to hear about it from the owner.
Right.
And then the show was over, and people would help get it moved back. But yeah, so that's the great thing about having your own building. Not having to worry about that. This ring is, staying here.
Yeah.
It's here. It's not going anywhere.
That was actually something I was curious about when I was going though. But I was like, they got to move this ring every week, and then I was like, oh no, they just probably work out around. I was like, oh wait, no, they don't know.
Right.
So
Oh yeah.
they
No.
gotta move it.
Yeah. No, for sure. And that's a pain for sure.
Yeah, and having helped put up and break down rings when like only me and Iron Belly showed up to help. That's a tough one.
Yeah. Not fun.
Yeah. But per AC, guys had to.
That was Greg retyping it.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, he retyped it for me. Thank you, Greg.
Yeah, thank you very much, Greg. We appreciate that. So, okay, it's like apparently things are starting to wind down on this. So,
yeah.
tell us your favorite story from like the whole history of wrestling that you've been through.
Oh my God.
Your dad, or
Pick one memory.
Like my favorite storyline ever of all time.
Well, no,
That's
just favorite memory.
memory. Well, again, so I was too young when my dad was wrestling. I mean, most of his career was before I was born, so I don't really have like a vivid memory, obviously, of anything like that. I mean, it's tough to say because I have so many great memories with great people, right? And that's the thing. A lot of, again, going back to the faithful, love that stuff. Love Mike Fox. A lot of people don't really. Me and Mike Fox were roommates for about a year, and we had a place in Arlington, probably about 12 years. This was during PCW, and so I got to know Mike really well. We worked a job together. We worked at a catering company once upon a time together. I was.
I'm trying to imagine Mike Fox as a caterer.
I was a groomsman in Fox's first wedding. So I mean, I've known him forever. Love the guy. We don't talk a whole lot, but every time I see him, we pick right back up where we left off. So when I think of great memories, I think of great people that I've been able to hang out with and be around. And again, guys like Richard, I've been able to go wherever and love hanging out with that guy and shooting the shit with him. When I get here early, all right, where's Richard? I'm hanging out with Richard. We're talking about what's going to happen on the show or just bullshitting about whatever, right? So, like I say, I kind of connect those great memories with the people. Stephen Kirby, I talk about how I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Richard. I also wouldn't be here if it wasn't for how great Kirby's been to work with. Yeah. When I first started at MPX, again, Kyle Davis brought me in, and I didn't know who the hell Stephen Kirby was. I knew he was a wrestler on the show that went by the name of Wasp, and and I remember I went to a show to check it out, like probably several months before I started working there, and I remember the main event was Wasp versus Gregory James. and they had like some type of hardcore match or whatever. And it's crazy now to think, I mean, just how much, weight Kirby's lost. You go back and look at pictures, it's a completely different person. And not many people can do that and keep it off, right? Like, we all probably know people who lost weight and then put it back on like a year later or whatever, right? But he's been great to work with. I mean, and because he kind of, like, he knows when people know what they're doing. Like, he'll give his input, hey, maybe do this, maybe don't do this. But if he knows you know what you're doing, he's also going to leave you alone to, maybe make your own mistakes or give you enough rope to hang yourself sometimes. But, he listens to, like, he knows Richard knows what he's doing, and so he listens to Richard and he'll give his input. But he's like, all right, if that's what you guys want to do, then cool. But I love Steven. It's going to be sad to see this place with, like, I can't think of MPX without him. So it's going to be interesting to see how it, evolves and moves on, without him. But I'm happy for him kind of being at that place where he's like, all right, it's time to hang it up. It's time to move on to the next chapter of my life. And not just him, but his wife, Kristen, his family. I mean, his whole family. I mean, they've all put so much into this place. And and even you can go back to the days of PCW. Even PCW didn't have what this place has, in my opinion.
Right.
Because PCW, I'm trying to remember when it started, and if Richard's watching, he can tell me. But it ended in 2010. And so if it was around as long as MPX was, that means it would have started in 98. And I think it did. So I think right now MPX might be right around the time as how long PCW was around. But MPX is going to be around longer. Yep. There's been no show that's been weekly since PCW like MPX has. And my opinion, I might be a little bit biased here because I work here. But I think we're the best. And again, no disrespect. Everyone should think they're the best, right?
Yeah.
Any other company, should say, no, we're the best. And believe it, right? And so I get passionate sometimes about that, where and I try not to knock anyone else, but I try to say, hey, here's why I think we're the best.
Yep.
We got the tagline, we run this town, and sometimes I get a little excited on commentary where I'm like, yeah, we're like F everyone else, and I don't even really mean that, but
did they call Richard about that, or rather
no, I've never and everyone knows. I mean, everyone gets it. Again, people that work at other companies, I guarantee you, no one's bothered by me saying I think MPX is the best, nor should they be, right?
I was gonna say, it's Cody.
Yeah, well, yeah, and I've been, like, as far as I know, now I could be wrong. I don't think there's people out there that don't like me.
Yeah.
I've never known that I've had heat with anybody. But I think I'm pretty well liked in the local wrestling community. But this place is special. Tommy Dreamer said it when he was here, and he's been here 4 times, and he knows. Yeah, this place is special.
And he's talked about it on his podcast before.
Yeah,
either
for sure.
Before or coming one of the times afterwards, he was talking about there's just this little company in Bedford, but it's something special. And
absolutely.
Like, oh my gosh.
And I think having our own building obviously helps, or else we wouldn't be running weekly. But you got bills to pay, so that's almost why, all right, well, if you're gonna have your own building, we got to run weekly. And that's why during the pandemic, people were giving us shit for continuing to run, and we shut down for a little bit too. But it's like, hey, they got a lease to pay here.
Yep.
Other shows can shut down because they've rented buildings, and so they don't have to worry about losing money. But it's like, hey, we're gonna do this as safe as possible, and we did. Yep. And there was a few. All right, so and so got COVID. Everyone, be careful or whatever. And that happened, right?
Yep.
And COVID's still a thing. And so, but we did it safely. We had the mask. We were taking the temperatures, and so I defended MPX on Twitter to multiple people who
remember when that happened.
You and Jamie
who were very upset by it. And I'm like, hey, you don't have to show up. But we're being safe. I felt like we were doing the right thing, because if I felt like it wasn't safe, I wouldn't have been here.
Right.
And there were people that were like, hey, I'm going to take some time off, and that's great. That's fine too. But yeah, so this is my whole thing too. If I've been telling people this recently too, because they were telling me, oh, are you staying on? If I left here now, I know me, I get FOMO. Yeah. I'd be like, first off, I don't have a great social life. What am I doing? I'm gonna be sitting home on Saturdays doing nothing anyways, right? I'd be sitting at home and I'd see the match announcements on the Facebook page, and I'm like, oh man, that looks cool. Like, I wish I was there to call that. And I'd be missing out, and I would, maybe I'll get to a point where I'm not feeling like that. Right now is not that time. Yeah. So I'm like, no, like, I don't want to have that feeling. Things happen, things come up. I take a couple shows off a year, if I've got like, family commitments or whatnot. But for the most part, I'm here every week, and it's because I want to be here. So I love this place.
Yes. Yeah. Tyler Foster doesn't like you. That's someone they say that doesn't like you.
Tyler likes me.
Yes.
Well, I'm pretty sure he just doesn't appreciate having.
He doesn't like the
super.
super. He doesn't like the super kicks, but Tyler likes me.
I was going to answer tonight, Red.
And hey, and I'm gonna put it over Tyler. I mean, Tyler does a great job.
Yeah.
When Tyler first started, Tyler's got this. Obviously, if you listen to him, right, he's got like this very dry, like voice, very deep voice, right? He's another one. He went to broadcasting school just like I did. We went to the same broadcasting school, not at the same time. But Tyler's funny.
Yeah.
And you might not realize that at first because he's kind of low key funny. Mm-hmm. And he'll say something sometimes, and I'm just like, all right. But
in a lot of ways, he's also very different when he's not here at the show.
Yes, and I've had a lot of broadcast partners here at MPX, and again, no disrespect to any of them, but it took time to kind of find the right one after Kyle stopped doing it. Because Kyle Davis again stopped doing it. He went on to manage, and then he left, and so it was like, all right, well, try it with this guy. Now I'm not feeling it. All right, let's try this guy. Let's bring this guy in. And then Tyler was a fan. Tyler was coming to the shows, and he did a little bit of commentary for other places. And I guess he'd reached out, and he started doing this stuff with Richard when Richard was a heel and the hockey stick. He was he was the personal ring announcer, and then we were doing commentary again. And so like, hey, we're gonna put Tyler with you. I'm like, all right, cool. And I didn't know Tyler at all at the time, but I'm glad to have him here. And if I didn't think he was doing good, you'll notice if I don't think someone's good at anything, I just don't say anything. I don't lie and say someone's good if I feel like they're not. So he's great.
Adam Chavez says that his nephew in Monterey actually watches the show, and all of his friends know about MPX.
Awesome. That's great. We have people all over the world. That's the great thing about the network, right?
Yeah.
Dmitry Alexandrov, when the night he was winning the title here, told me like he legit had family in Russia that was watching, and because they're 8 hours ahead of us in St. Petersburg, and so when it was like 10 p.m. here, it was like 6 a.m. the next morning there. And I remember talking about that on commentary. I'm like at 6 a.m. Sunday morning, and the Alexandrov family is seeing Dmitry win the Olympics or something like that. And so yeah, I mean all over, and I think there's some sort of like thing like Kirby or someone's able to look up where they can tell you, yeah, we got a subscription here. I've heard them talk about it. I know there's a handful like all over Europe, you know.
Yeah, I know there's some Germany's.
Yeah.
Because Austin had always talked about that. Apparently he had talked to him, found him through Reddit or something.
Yeah.
So
like that's awesome.
It's whoever it is that runs Cage Match. That's why they update so quick.
Yeah, there's people that have never been here live who watch the show every single week on the network, and that's the great thing about technology.
Talking about the Dmitry match and that call, do you have like a favorite call of yours that you remember? Kind of like JR always says, he loves.
That Dmitry one was really cool, and I enjoyed that because again, Dmitry's a friend. Great dude. Love that guy. Every time I see him, great big old hug for him.
Yep.
And so that was cool because he worked hard, and it was a great story too. With him and Sky and everything, and so that was kind of like the boyhood dream comes true. That whole thing, right? So that was cool. Anytime we have like a big night, when Tatum won the title, like that was cool because it had been a long road from him, right? Yeah. For him, like you go back to when he first started, wearing the sweater and taking the earring out, and then menage a trois, and so that was cool to see because you've seen Tatum. If you've watched since the beginning, you've seen him evolve into the great character, the great wrestler that he is. So it's cool when you see those kind of moments. And as I've been here as long as I have, I get to see those people develop to where someone can go from, I don't know if that guy's going to cut it, to that guy's really good.
Greg asks, you say you hate driving, but would you travel if the money was right?
I mean, everyone has a price, like Teddy DiBiase used to say, for sure, if the money is right. But that's saying, look, and if you're being realistic, I always say, if I run my own wrestling promotion, we'll say down in Austin, San Antonio, if you're being realistic, I don't care how good someone thinks I am, hopefully you can find someone local, right? That would be the way I would look at it, right? And maybe I'm not, tooting my own horn enough or whatever, but I think, I want to spend the money on the talent. Like, you don't need to pay me however, like, $50 or whatever it is to drive down 4 hours to your show. Because the thing is, at the end, is it still worth it for me, too? Because not just, you're paying me for the show, but I got to drive however long it takes, right? Drive back. And so again, I don't like driving. Just forget wrestling, just anywhere now. And that's since I've gotten older. When I was younger, I loved driving. I would drive anywhere. We're going somewhere. Hey, I'll come pick you up. Let's go do this. Now, if my friends ask me to do something, I'm like, all right, are you picking me up? Are you driving? Because I just don't want to drive.
Is there? I know you probably don't watch a lot of local independent wrestling around the area, but is there someone that we haven't brought in yet that you're like, man, I've heard good things. I kind of
see. Well, when you hit the nail on the head, I couldn't tell you because I don't. You know, I only keep up with MPX.
Yeah.
I just don't have the time. You know. Yeah. So like we'll have people in where I'm like, oh, I've seen them on posters before.
Right.
You know, like we had Alejandro the Lion, right?
Yeah.
I had seen her numerous times on Facebook, and I think I'd probably seen clips. And I was like, all right, that's cool. You know, that we got someone different coming in.
Right.
Because they've got a great school over there at DFW All Pro. They've put out a lot of like really cool people. I mean, Exodus Prime.
Yeah.
Exodus is another dude who I think is great. He's from Oak Cliff. I'm from Oak Cliff. A lot of people don't realize that. We're two very different people, but we're both from Oak Cliff. So when he told me he was from Oak Cliff, I'm like for real? He's like, yeah. And I'm like, awesome. I'd never met anyone else in wrestling that was from Oak Cliff.
Nice.
And so
born in Oak Cliff.
Oh, there you go. And so so it's cool that like you've got these different companies around here that, you know, all right, yeah, we've got our school, they've got their school, but you know, you want to give people as much opportunity to work as possible. Yeah. So it's like, all right, DFW All Pro does a show on Friday. Yeah, they can work a show there, come here, work on Saturday, go over to someone else that's running on Sunday, you know. Yeah. I'm all for, you know, these guys having multiple places to work, and there's really, as far as I know anyways, not a lot of, you know, heat and hatred between the companies. You know, back in the day, so at PCW, you had PCW in Arlington, and then you had XCW up in Denton, and there was a lot of heat between those two companies. And I never worked for XCW. I didn't know the guys that ran up there, but you'd have guys that would work for us at PCW, and then they'd kind of disappear and be like, what happened to so-and-so? Oh, they went to XCW. And then the owners of PCW didn't want to use them because they were working for XCW, and vice versa. You'd have guys from XCW that would come down, and then XCW was like, all right, well, we're not using that guy anymore, you know?
Talk about doing that.
That was Victor's story, right? Where he got caught in the middle of that once.
Yeah, and we didn't, and I think, and I could be wrong, because now we did shows Friday and Saturday, but I think their main show was Friday, and our main show was Saturday, so we easily could have had you know, the same guys work. And so thankfully, again, as far as I know anyways, there's not a lot of that going on in this area.
Yeah.
And so that's always kind of cool to see.
I know you said like Rumble is your favorite, you know, show every year and stuff like that. Do you have one show, and granted we've had so many here, is there one show that really sticks out? You're like, you know what, I really enjoyed that show.
You know what, it's funny, normally I would probably tell you, no, I can't remember, but there's one that, so I think the first, I want to say it was the first Purple Rain we did. Now you guys might have a better memory on it than we did, but it was the one where we had it was it Leva against Thunder Rosa? Was that the first one? Maybe it was the second one.
That was the second one, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. I wasn't here for the first one because y'all reopened and I hadn't moved back.
Yeah, okay. So I think it was that second one then. And I just remember that being like a really cool show, and we've built up, and hopefully we've got a packed house next Saturday for Purple Rain. But that's like become, in my opinion, our signature show. Yeah, we have a handful of big shows out the year, Cold Day in Hell, Destiny, Rumble. But I think Purple Rain, like that's the one where I'm like, all right, like I got to get dressed up for that one. Oh, yeah. That's a big deal, and that's one where and I know people that they don't come out every week, but they're like, all right, I'm going to be there for this because I know something cool is bound to happen, right?
That's actually something I always found cool about MPX is the fact that it's like, yeah, we've got Destiny around the same time as WrestleMania, but for MPX in a lot of ways, Purple Rain is the WrestleMania.
Yeah, I think so too. And that doesn't mean that, you know, more big shows can't be added, right? So,
we used to talk about MPX has the big four. And everything else, they're good shows, but it all leads to those big four. And then suddenly Richard's like, oh, really? We're going to have one every month now.
Exactly.
Yeah. And you can. I mean, we had a packed crowd last night, and it wasn't even like a big show. And I was like, it was awesome to see. I mean, that might have been the biggest crowd we've had for a show that wasn't a big show or a show where we didn't have like a big name, you know, brought in.
Well, everyone wanted to come bend the knee and pay the respects to Tommy Prince. So
there you go. Absolutely.
They came to hopefully see Malico dethrone him.
There you go.
Work, but you know.
Or see Malico for last time, whatever.
Oh, he'll be back.
Oh God.
But yeah, no. Either way,
yeah, definitely. Clowns. You like clowns?
I have no issues with clowns.
Dang. Okay.
I mean, you know.
I was gonna say that's one of Richard's favorite stories. Cody was right there.
We were in that restroom over there.
Yeah, you
filming
were there.
Baby D, and that just popped up recently in my memories because it was like the anniversary, like on Facebook of it or whatever. Wow. And that's still the favorite promo we've ever done. And it was real.
Live breakdown.
It was and we all felt bad about it afterwards. But in the moment, it was like, oh, this is awesome. To where people that didn't know, they're like, wow, she's a really good actress. And I'm like, she wasn't acting. No. Those are real tears. But kudos to her for going, because some people have that fear of clowns and they wouldn't even wanted to do that. But she has the presence of mind to know, okay, this is going to be good. Yes, I'm going to hate it when we're doing it, but this is going to be good.
I would like to say I'm that way, but I don't know if I would be.
Yeah. So no, that was we've done a lot of cool stuff here, like not necessarily in the rain, like promos where we filmed, and that by far, like I'll always remember that one. That was my favorite for sure.
That was great. Oh yeah, it was the Legs Nation for mostly last night.
Oh yeah, hey,
there was a lot of them.
Mr. Legs always has his people come out and support him, and that's great when guys have that, right?
Yeah.
With family, friends, whatever that come out, and support them. That's awesome.
Yes, it is.
It's like, has there ever been a guy that you've seen and you're like, I don't know how the people are going to react to it, and you're just like surprised by how
yeah,
big a
because I was going to say surely Legs when you first saw the.
Oh yeah, it was ridiculous,
I think we
right?
all were that way.
For sure.
We saw it, we're like, oh, this isn't going to work, and then he did it, and we're like, oh crap, no, this is really good.
Yeah, that's a great example. I'm trying to think what else. I'm sure there has been, but nothing's jumping out. To me at the moment, I feel like we've had something recent. Well, no,
the pack.
Well, some things work, some things don't.
That would have worked better with better wrestlers.
But people have the presence of mind again, and that's one thing about Richard. Like he'll tell you, yeah, I thought this was going to be good, and it wasn't. It turned out to be crap. But we got to try. Be like, hey, this sounds good.
Nothing ventured, nothing gained.
Yeah. I mean, they can't all be home runs. But yeah.
Okay, well, I guess we'll go ahead and call it.
Yeah,
Thank you very much once again, Cody.
This is awesome.
This is really awesome.
I'm glad you guys had me, and and especially because again, when I reached out to you guys about being on here, I didn't know if MPX, so that's why I was like, you know what, I want to do this one last time.
Yeah.
And it was funny, before we started, Richard jokingly said, "Are you announcing your retirement?" And I go, "No, but I would have been if this hadn't. No, seriously, if I was kind of keeping an open mind, because if MPX hadn't been bought, like I was going to use this platform and be like, all right, next Saturday is going to be my last show, and I'm okay with it. I'm glad that's not the case now.
Which would have
I was going to say it was more of I was laughing because I just feel Richard, like, you're an retroman? No, why are you trying to tell me something?
Yeah.
I said at the beginning.
I said, should I be? But yeah, no, you guys do a great job with this, and I've enjoyed when you've done these live ones here. The one with Kirby was great. It was like 7 hours, right?
Yeah.
Almost every show we have with Kirby.
I enjoyed
5 and 4.5.
I enjoyed the one with Palmer. Palmer was great. He told us a story about we used to play football.
Yep.
Back in the day, we've all gotten older. Palmer could still go. I'm sure he would have no issue playing football.
Yeah, watching him last night is like
You're
ballet.
saying Richard can't just throw
No. Richard could probably throw it, but he'd have to be stationary. I don't think he wouldn't be moving around in the pocket like he might have been back in the day. But we used to get together and play those games. Richard, JT LaMotta, his kid, Athena, Palmer, Christopher Hayden, Berger, who else? I mean, and it would be random, and then people would show up like once or twice, and then there'd be random people at the park. They'd be like, "Hey, can we play?" Yeah, come on, And we used to do that every Wednesday for a long time. And then, like I said, we all got older, and we started getting hurt.
Yeah. So either way, make sure you have your tickets for this Saturday, Purple Rain.
It's gonna be awesome. I'm not just saying that; like I legit mean that. I mean, again, you look at the lineup, and every match, I think is gonna be great. And that's how I know when a show is gonna be good. Where I can look at every match and be like, all right, I'm looking forward to that one. Yes, I want to see that one. So I'm excited for it, and hopefully
I've yet to see a
everyone
match
knows.
on that card that I was just like, no, I have no real interest in that.
No, not at all.
But yeah, no, and make sure you tune into MPX Rehab this Thursday as well. We will be in the studio, and we will have Frankie Fisher with us.
Ooh, exciting.
And then the day after, we'll also have JD Griffey once again.
There you go.
So, it's like we're going to have a fun time talking about it, Purple Rain, with those two.
Yeah, I'm sure those guys have lots of stories.
Yes.
So, thank you for watching, ladies and gentlemen, and keep it kayfabe.
See y'all Thursday. Friday, Saturday. God,
Saturday,
so many.
God, yeah, we're very busy. Oh, no, and then the next one.
And you're not